let's try to picture a place that controlled almost a quarter of the entire world's economy, a land literally overflowing with gold and silk. Now imagine that in that exact same place, the vast majority of people were stuck in deep poverty. Well, that was 18th century India. It was a land of stunning contrasts, and it was about to be turned completely upside down. Today we're going to unravel how both of those things could possibly be true at the same time.
So, that's the big puzzle we're tackling in this explainer, right? How could a country be a global economic superpower and at the same time be home to such widespread crushing poverty? Let's dive in and really unpack this contradiction.
To get our heads around this, we have to start with the economy. Because honestly, the numbers from this period are just staggering. It's kind of hard to even grasp the scale of India's economic muscle back then.
So at the start of the 1700s, India's economy was an absolute titan on the world stage. Get this, it accounted for a whopping 23% of the world's GDP. I mean, think about that for a second. That's nearly a quarter of everything produced on the entire planet. This wasn't some backwater. It was an industrial and commercial powerhouse. All this wealth actually gave India a really cool nickname, a sink of precious metals. And why was that? Well, because India was pretty much self-sufficient. It made all this incredible stuff everyone wanted, these amazing textiles, spices, silks, but it didn't really need to buy much back in return. So what flowed into the country wasn't more goods, it was just treasure, a constant, massive river of gold, silver, and pearls.
And we're not just talking about raw materials or simple goods here. India was a seriously sophisticated manufacturing hub. Its shipbuilding industry, for instance, was so advanced that European companies were its customers. As one English observer wrote at the time, when it came to building ships, the English learned far more than they taught. India was the teacher, not the student.
Okay, so with all this gold and silver pouring in, why were most people still so poor? This, right here, is the heart of the paradox. The tough reality was that this immense national wealth was stuck at the top, in the hands of a tiny elite. For almost everyone else, a whole bunch of internal problems kept them completely trapped.
So, what was going so wrong on the inside? Well, first off, agriculture, the backbone of the whole economy, was basically stuck in the past, technologically speaking. And the peasants working the land? They were being absolutely crushed by taxes from all sides. The state, the local landlords, these guys called zemindars and other officials. There was just no reason to innovate when you knew any extra money you made would just be taken. On top of that, you had constant wars messing up trade routes, local chiefs slapping high taxes on everything, and the nobility, the main people buying all the fancy goods, were actually losing their own wealth. It was truly a perfect storm of decay from within.
Now, this chaos wasn't just in the economy. It was reflected in India's society, too, which was every bit as complex and contradictory. In a lot of ways, society was deeply, deeply fractured.
So within Hindu society, you had the caste system, which was this incredibly powerful and rigid force. It pretty much decided your job, who you could marry, even who you could eat a meal with. But these kinds of divisions weren't just a Hindu thing. Muslim society was also broken up along different lines, by ancestry, with nobles from Iran, Turkey, and Afghanistan all competing for power, and also by social status and the major religious split between Shia and Sunni.
And yet, and this is the really surprising part, running against all these deep divisions was this incredible current of harmony. You'd think a society this fractured would be at war with itself all the time, right? Well, not exactly. A surprising amount of mutual respect and cooperation existed between Hindus and Muslims.
And we've got real solid proof of this. You had Hindu rulers like the Marathas, who actively supported the famous Muslim shrine in Ajmer. Way down in the south, you had the Muslim ruler Tipu Sultan giving money to the very important Hindu Sringeri temple. And this wasn't just about religion, it was cultural too. You had Hindus becoming masters of Persian, the official court language, while Muslim writers were creating absolute masterpieces in local languages like Hindi and Bengali.
But we have to be honest here. For women, this was a really oppressive time. Their lives were almost completely defined by patriarchal control. In the north, the Purdah system kept many women, especially from the upper classes, in total seclusion. The dowry system put a huge, sometimes impossible financial strain on families. And while the horrifying practice of sati, where a widow would burn herself on her husband's funeral pyre, was mostly limited to the very top of society, the ban on widow remarriage for higher castes meant that for many women, when their husband died, their own independent life was effectively over.
Okay, let's switch gears one last time and turn to culture, because this is where we find what might be the most startling paradox of all, a world of absolutely dazzling art and creativity existing right alongside a really profound lack of scientific interest. So, as the central Mughal power in Delhi started to crumble, you might expect that art and culture would just decline right along with it. But that's not what happened at all. Instead, something way more interesting took place. Culture decentralized. As the main court got weaker, all these amazing artists, poets, and musicians packed up and fanned out across the country. They found new jobs and support in rising regional kingdoms like Hyderabad, Lucknow, and Kashmir. And this led to a massive explosion of cultural creativity, far away from the old center of power.
You could really see this creative energy in literature, which was just flourishing in all these different regional languages. In Tamil, you had Tayo Manavar writing incredible devotional poetry. Over in Punjab, Waris Shah wrote the epic romance Heer Ranjha, which is still famous today. And in Sindh, Shah Abdul Latif created his celebrated poetry collection, Risalo. It was truly a golden age for regional voices and stories. But, and it's a big but, when we look at what was being taught in the centers of higher education, the picture changes dramatically. The curriculum was completely traditional. It focused on things like literature, law, religion, philosophy. All important subjects for sure. But what's really amazing is what was missing from that list.
And this, right here, was India's greatest intellectual blind spot: science and technology. At the exact same moment that Western Europe was being totally transformed by the scientific revolution, India's schools had almost completely ignored the study of natural science, modern technology, and even up-to-date geography. The country was falling dangerously behind the monumental changes that were reshaping the rest of the world. So, when we pull all these different threads together, the economy, the society, the culture, what's the final picture we get? Well, we see a society of incredible resilience and complexity, but also one that was profoundly vulnerable.
So there you have it, right? A global trading power with a crippled farming sector. A deeply fractured society that somehow found these moments of real harmony. A culture that produced breathtaking art while being completely blind to modern science. It was a civilization with amazing strengths, but all of these internal weaknesses left it dangerously exposed to the powerful new forces that were just starting to gather on the horizon.
And that leaves us with one final, kind of haunting question. For a nation with so much wealth, but also such profound internal problems, standing on the doorstep of an age of aggressive European expansion, was its fate already sealed? Were the seeds of what came next already planted deep inside these very contradictions? It's a powerful thought to end on.